Marcos Jr., President of the Republic of the Philippines, presents this presidential citation to Alexandra Ayala.
Eala fought to hold back tears as she accepted a presidential citation from President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Inside the ceremonial hall of Malacañang Palace, the atmosphere turned deeply emotional. For a brief moment, silence filled the room as no one seemed to know where to look. It was the evening of July 13, 2026. Holding the framed citation in her hands, Eala stood beside the President of the Philippines, overwhelmed by the significance of the occasion. At just 21 years old and ranked world number 28, the highest ranking ever achieved by a Filipino tennis player, Alexandra Ayala struggled to keep her voice steady. Only moments earlier, she had smiled and admitted to the audience that public speaking rarely made her nervous. But this was different. The weight of the honor, the journey that had brought her there, and the pride of representing an entire nation made the moment impossible to treat like any other.
I normally do not get very nervous when I have to talk.
This night was different. For the first time, Alex admitted that she was genuinely nervous. The emotion was impossible to hide. Cameras captured the moment as her eyes filled with tears and her breathing became unsteady. Standing before the nation, she fought to compose herself, but the significance of the occasion was written across her face. It was a rare glimpse of vulnerability from an athlete who had built her reputation on staying calm under pressure.
Today is the exception. I am pretty nervous, so
Behind her, First Lady Liza Aranta Marcos watched quietly as the ceremony unfolded. Just a few feet away, Ala's parents, Riza and Mike, looked on with unmistakable pride. Standing beside her was President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., whom Alex had met only moments earlier. His smile reflected the realization that this ceremony had grown into something far greater than a formal presentation. It had become a celebration of a historic achievement that inspired an entire nation. That world number 28 ranking carried enormous significance. Only 9 days earlier, on the iconic grass courts of Wimbledon, Eala had delivered one of the biggest victories of her career. She stunned defending champion Iga Swiatek, edging a dramatic first set tiebreak 7-6 before dominating the second set 6-2. The remarkable win sent shockwaves through the tennis world and marked another milestone in her extraordinary rise, cementing her place as the highest-ranked Filipino tennis player in history. Reaching the round of 16 at Wimbledon was already a historic achievement. No Filipino player had ever advanced that far in a Grand Slam singles event. Although Ala's remarkable run ended with a hard-fought 3-set loss to Italy's Jasmine Paolini, her tournament had already changed the history of Philippine tennis. Within days of returning home, another milestone followed. The WTA rankings placed her at a career-high world number 28, making her the highest-ranked Filipino tennis player ever. Soon afterward, she received an invitation, unlike any before, a call from Malacañang Palace to be honored by the President of the Philippines. Yet one remarkable detail from that ceremony has largely gone unnoticed. There was no blueprint for it. The Philippines has celebrated champions in boxing, weightlifting, billiards, and many other sports, but it had never needed a protocol for recognizing a tennis player who had reached this level because no Filipino had ever done it before. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. acknowledged that reality with a light-hearted remark that perfectly captured the significance of the moment. Smiling, he told Eala, "We didn't actually have a protocol for this. We just made one up so we'd have an excuse to take a picture with you." Behind the laughter was a much deeper truth. For the first time, the country found itself honoring an athlete whose accomplishments didn't fit into any existing tradition. It wasn't simply another state ceremony, it was history being written in real time. The presidential citation itself was an official national honor, but even its wording had to be crafted specifically for Alex. It recognized her as the first Filipino woman to achieve unprecedented success on the international professional tennis circuit, language that had never before appeared in a presidential citation because no Filipino tennis player had ever reached such extraordinary heights. In many ways, the nation was trying to catch up with a career that was already making history. Standing inside the halls of Malacañang, it felt as though the Philippines was creating a new chapter for itself, learning how to celebrate an athlete whose achievements had gone beyond anything the country had experienced in tennis. The importance of that evening becomes even clearer when viewed through three defining milestones. The first was Wimbledon itself. Alex arrived at the All England club, ranked outside the world's top 40. She left as world number 28 after producing one of the tournament's biggest upsets. On centre court, she defeated defending champion and world number 3 Iga Swiatek in straight sets, winning a dramatic first-set tiebreak before closing out the match 6-2 in the second. The victory stunned the tennis world and instantly became one of the defining moments of the championship. She then pushed Italy's Jasmine Paolini, then ranked world number 17, to three fiercely contested sets in the round of 16 before falling 6-4, 4-6, 6-3. Even in defeat, she had already achieved something no Filipino man or woman had ever accomplished, reaching the fourth round of a Grand Slam singles tournament. That historic milestone became one of the reasons the presidential citation described her success as unprecedented. The second milestone was her remarkable rise in the rankings. World number 28 wasn't the result of one magical tournament. It represented nearly a year and a half of steady progress. Earlier in 2026, Alex broke into the WTA top 50 for the first time after a strong run at the ASB Classic in Auckland. She followed that breakthrough with her first WTA 125 title in Guadalajara before capturing another WTA 125 championship in Birmingham, where she defeated doubles partner Nicola Bartenkova in the final. By the middle of the season, her record stood at 30 victories against 18 defeats, while her prize money had climbed to nearly $1.3 million. Those numbers painted the picture of far more than an emerging talent. They reflected the consistency of a genuine top 30 player whose potential still appeared limitless. The third milestone had nothing to do with rankings or trophies. It was the moment the ceremony became deeply personal. During her speech, Alex set aside statistics and match results to remember the person who first introduced her to tennis, her late maternal grandfather, Roberto Bobby Marno, affectionately known as Papa Lolo. She recalled spending countless afternoons training with him and her brother at the Rizal Memorial Sports Complex in Manila. Then she shared a childhood memory that immediately resonated across the Philippines. "I used to train with my brother and my grandfather every day after school, wearing my ruffled socks, my light-up shoes, and my chubby cheeks." The room instantly softened. What began as a formal state ceremony suddenly became something intimate and unforgettable. In just a few words, Alex connected the little girl chasing tennis balls around a local court with the young woman now standing before the President of the Philippines as one of the world's best players. That simple memory spread rapidly across Filipino media and social platforms because it reminded millions that every historic achievement begins with ordinary moments. She wasn't trying to create an emotional scene. She was simply showing everyone where her journey had truly begun. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. then did something rarely seen from a head of state. He set aside formality and spoke as a genuine admirer. Smiling warmly, he admitted, "I'm a fan, so I'm probably gushing. I'm sorry, but I'm a real fan of yours." He went on to share a personal wish, saying that he hoped to watch Alex compete someday, whether at a Grand Slam or any other tournament. He even joked that simply watching one of her practice sessions would be enough. It was a heartfelt moment that revealed not only his respect for her achievements, but also his appreciation for the person she had become. During his remarks, President Marcos praised more than Alex's success on the court. He highlighted the humility and grace with which she carried herself despite reaching the highest level of professional tennis. "You have brought tremendous pride to the Philippines," he said, "not only because of your victories, but because of the dignity and character you display in achieving them. You represent the very best qualities of the Filipino people." He concluded with a message that defined the evening. "You have reminded Filipinos how extraordinary our people are because we are capable of producing someone like you. All 110 million Filipinos are behind you, cheering for your continued success. And if there is anything the government can do to help you, all you have to do is ask." It was more than applause or praise. It was a public commitment of support delivered by the nation's highest office. The presidential citation itself reflected the historic nature of Alex's accomplishments. It recognized her as the first Filipino woman to achieve unprecedented success on the international professional tennis circuit, honoring her exceptional talent, perseverance, and unwavering determination. It also praised her for inspiring a new generation of Filipino athletes to pursue excellence through discipline, dedication, and hard work, while bringing pride and honor to the entire nation. Every sentence in that citation carried weight because every achievement it described had never before belonged to a Filipino tennis player. Several key figures witnessed the ceremony, including Philippine Sports Commission Chairman Patrick Gregorio, Alex's agent Carter Lin, and her proud parents, Mike and Riza Eala. As the president presented the framed citation, the room erupted in applause. Yet the most unforgettable image remained the same one that opened the evening, Alex standing quietly, holding the award in her hands, overcome with emotion as she searched for the right words. But the significance of her rise extends far beyond one ceremony. For decades, tennis has occupied only a small place in Philippine sports culture. Boxing has produced legends like Manny Pacquiao. Weightlifting has celebrated Olympic champions. Basketball enjoys generations of passionate support and well-established infrastructure. Tennis, however, had never produced a singles player capable of reaching the world's elite. Alex Eala changed that reality. Her success has the power to influence far more than rankings. It can inspire young athletes to choose tennis, encourage families to invest in the sport, motivate local communities to improve facilities, and push national sports organizations to devote greater resources toward developing future champions. That is why President Marcos' promise of support carries real significance. Whether those commitments lead to expanded funding and long-term programs remains to be seen, but one fact is already undeniable: the door has been opened. A nation that once had no protocol for honoring a world-class tennis player now has a new standard, and that standard bears the name Alex Eala. Her journey to Malacañang was anything but effortless. Only 6 months before this ceremony, Alex returned to the Rizal Memorial Sports Complex, the very courts where her grandfather had first introduced her to tennis, to compete in the Philippine Women's Open, a WTA 125 event held on home soil. The tournament carried enormous emotional meaning, but it ended in disappointment with a quarterfinal defeat to Camila Osorio. Alex had dedicated the event to her beloved Papa Lolo, making the loss especially painful. Falling short on the same courts where her dream became one of the most difficult moments of her season. Half a year later, she stood inside the presidential palace speaking about those same courts before the president of the Philippines. That wasn't simply redemption. It was proof that great careers are built not by avoiding setbacks, but by continuing forward after them. Which brings everything back to that unforgettable moment. Alex stood holding the presidential citation, her voice trembling with emotion while President Marcos smiled nearby, fully aware that the ceremony created to honor her could never truly match the magnitude of what she had accomplished. At just 21 years old, Alex Eala represents far more than another sporting milestone. She represents a nation redefining what Filipino athletes can achieve, in what sport, and on what stage. The protocol had to be created because nothing like her had ever existed before. World number 28 is already the highest ranking any Filipino has reached in professional tennis, yet it still feels like the beginning rather than the destination. The little girl she described wearing light-up shoes at Rizal Memorial has now carried those same dreams all the way to the halls of Malacañang Palace, and her journey is far from over. Less than 2 weeks after the ceremony, Alex is scheduled to return to competition at the Mubadala DC Open in Washington. The next chapter is already waiting. This time, however, she steps onto the court carrying more than a tennis racket. She carries a presidential citation written specifically for her, the public support of an entire nation, and the hopes of millions of Filipinos inspired by her remarkable journey. The story that began inside Malacañang Palace is only the beginning. The next chapters will unfold on the courts of Washington, the US Open, and beyond. And if her career so far has proven anything, it's that history may have only started to discover what Alex Eala is capable of.